2022 Knife Awards, let's talk about 2022's greatest knives. Now, this is going to come in different forms. I have a list of 7 or 8 knives that, in my opinion, were some of the best of 2022, culminating in my favorite and maybe arguably the best for assorted reasons. But let's get to it. This one didn't quite make the list, but it's a Shaman. Of course it didn't make the list. This didn't come out this year. These scales are actually from Met & Boss. They were $90 for these aluminum scales. Those of you aluminum haters, is what it is. But 2022, I learned how to do that. You can just bloop, right open. Not too hard. All right, let's get on with it. First on the list is a knife that I currently don't have in my possession. That is the Saviti Conspirator. Now, the reason this one makes the list is, in my opinion, this was Saviti's best rendition of a button lock. The ergonomics were so neutral, but it felt so good in hand. The value you got for 75 or 80 bucks for that Conspirator was pretty darn good. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was in Nitro V blade steel, maybe 14C. I don't specifically remember, but it was a blade steel that was lower mid-tier, which worked out quite well. It was damn slicey, and the fidget factor was through the roof. Now, one of the major problems that this one actually had, and most button locks do have the same issue, is that it didn't have quite enough detent strength. So if you wanted to play around with that or kind of like add something in there, like maybe a thicker spring or something, it would have made it quite perfect. And I highly recommend you go check out Jake at Ohio State's video where he did exactly that. He experimented with different spring strengths and actually increased the detent strength by just a little bit, making it almost perfect. Now, if you're not a Conspirator fan, you're gonna say, no, the Kaiser Assassin was better, the Kaiser Hiccup was better, the original was better, the Pyrite's better, the Feldspar's better. You insert your favorite button lock here if it makes you feel any better. I'm here to tell you, the best one was the Conspirator. Shut up, and moving on. Next on the list would actually be the Hogue K320. Now you might be saying, Tyler, that came out last year, and it was one of my favorite knives of last year. This is the one with the aluminum scales. Now this actually packs quite a weight addition to the original, but it makes it feel like it looks. This looks like a workhorse, and once you get them aluminum scales, it feels like a workhorse. That heft is so nice, and it actually changes the acoustics of the action quite a bit to where it's very satisfying. Now, one of the reasons this very easily makes this list, yes, it's just a scale change basically. For 180 bucks, S30V. Guys, Hogue's quality is second to freaking none. Hogue's quality has just been so impressive since I've been getting into more and more Hogues. This is just incredible. I actually have it a little bit tighter, but look at that right there. This thing has stayed perfectly centered since I've had it, if you see right there. And I think my only complaint with the K320 is actually this opening slot right here. This opening slot isn't difficult to access, but if I was wearing thicker gloves, it is. But that's it. And even if you're wearing thicker gloves, you can actually do that with it, which makes it just incredible. The ergonomics on the K320 are insane. The blade stock thickness, I believe, is coming in at 130 thousandths, so it's not obnoxiously thick, while it does have this full flat grind bringing it down. This forward finger choil is just incredible for ergonomics. My other complaint, which I totally forgot until just now, is this pocket clip. It looks awesome. In my opinion, I think it looks cool. But it also has the effect and look of a cheese grater, which it will do that to your pants. Just saying. Sticking with the theme of Hogue, we have the Ritter Hogue Mark I. Yes, this has been out forever again, but this specifically is making my list for best value, hands down, ever. Not just 2022, of all time. This is the best value knife of all time. Now, some people argued that about the original. This, for $215 plus or minus, you get this nice carbon fiber, which is very, very nice. And you get this MagnaCut blade heat treated at 63 to 64 Rockwell, just like MagnaCut's supposed to be done, because Hogue listens to the people in the community as opposed to other people, not naming names. But this is something special. This thing is perfectly centered. It's so easy to access the thumb studs. It's actually, in my opinion, a knife that I would say is better than the K320 in some aspects, as it is more neutral. It's less aggressive with like not only how you hold it, but just overall. I mean, obviously this thing kind of looks like a SIG because it's, you know, a SIG Sauer, but this is something special, guys. The action, look at that. Holding it, not even flat up and down. Bam. The action on this is stupid. The ergonomics on these are pretty damn good. And this blade coming in, and again, I think 130 or 120 thousandths. The stonewash looks oh so nice. And it is just one hell of a knife. This is a knife that will never leave my collection, not only because I feel like I need a rear Hogue in my collection, but because this is a knife that if I got rid of everything else, can be your one and only. A lot of these knives on this list, I think, can do that. I think the K320 can also do that, but it is a little more aggressive. Oh yeah, and I think this was a Knife Joy exclusive, but don't quote me on that. Next on the list was my favorite for a long period of time in 2022, and that was the Nimble X, specifically the sheep's foot version. Yes, Johnny over there at EEDC designed this Nimble X to be a larger version of the original Nimble, which was an absolute hit. The quality was through the roof. The ergonomics for such a small knife are incredible, and when you increase the size, they get even better. I want to say the blade stock thickness was coming in at 130, 140 thousandths. It was M390 if I'm not mistaken, for a price point of about $285 plus or minus. Slightly overpriced, but for a smaller company like EEDC, I'm not entirely mad. The action on these were stupid. The ergonomics were stupid. The carry, this thing was super, super thin, but felt great in your hand, which is a very, very hard thing to balance out, and they balanced it out quite well. The Nimble X is just, I ended up selling mine, and I am so pissed off at myself because I absolutely loved it. This is a knife that if you can get your hands on or you're on the fence on, do it. Don't even question it. You will love this thing. This thing is just phenomenal, and it looks awesome. Next on the list is the Manix II. What? The Manix II has already been out for so long. Well, no shit. It's not really the Manix II, guys. This is the Manix II in Rex 45, my favorite knife of all time. But it's not because of this knife. It's actually because of these scales. So these scales, before I was rudely interrupted by my forearm jarring my mat, these scales are AWT scales. They are aluminum scales. You might be seeing a theme. I'm starting to grow more attached to aluminum than I originally thought, mainly because aluminum is very easily priced. You don't have to pay the $250 to get these things, and they can do so much with it. It's great, and it's strong. I mean, aluminum is going to be stronger than your standard G10, FRN, any of that shit. And I mean, look at these. These are just incredible. And it has nothing to do with the way they look. That's not why I like these. This is a mixture between the skinny and the regular Manix, finding that perfect balance ergonomically. So AWT did a fantastic job of designing these. But wait, there's more. There are no liners, and they're milled out on the inside, making this lighter than the original version. So, A, that's a win, but that's not why this is making this list. Why does it make this list? What's that little guy doing right there? You see that little guy? That little guy? Normally I say don't worry about that little guy, but worry about this little guy, because this little guy right here is not standard on any other Manix. They do not put this screw with this barrel spacer going through there. Thus, these are the only two screws holding the original Manix together, which is fine with the stock version because the flared out lanyard tube holds it in place. But the moment you change the scales, that lanyard tube is really no longer flared out, because good luck getting a flared out lanyard tube through a piece of metal scale. It just simply doesn't work and keep that flare. So what ends up happening as you kind of fidget around with these, because rock scale designs were my favorite to put on this. The skinny rock scale designs are fantastic. But these two, and well, I guess these three, right? These three screws, what's gonna happen is no matter how tight you get these, this is gonna pop back and forth and you're gonna feel it subtly. Now, if you're a knife enthusiast and probably a guy that carries a knife more than he freaking uses it, buys more knives than he'll ever use in his life, and upgrades these knives and spends more money on the knives than they do than food for themselves in a month. Yeah, I'm looking at all you watching this damn video. You guys are gonna notice that little click and it's gonna piss you off. The same way something that's not dead centered pisses you off. The same way that detent lash pisses you off. the same way, the back and forth, the up and down, all that shit pisses you off. It pisses you off. But this thing got rid of the lanyard tube. You could actually do without the lanyard hole. I would actually approve of that. But they decided to be nice and leave you a lanyard hole that is very nicely chamfered around, and everything else looks fantastic. But there is so much solidity to this guy now, all thanks to this one screw that AWT chose this design specifically to do without really, I didn't hear anything from the community to tell them to do it. This was by far and large my label for most innovative design of 2022. There is no other design that can beat what these scales do for the Manix II. If you have a Manix II and you have not checked out the Manix II scales by AWT, get over the aluminum hump and spend the $85. This has become my favorite freaking knife ever made. And last, but definitely the best thing that ever happened in 2022, both for value, design, and just overall cool factor. The Bridgeport Knife Co. I don't even know the damn name of this thing. This was one of those knives that popped up on, I don't know, it was like a Kickstarter or something, and I caught wind of it, and oh my gosh. First of all, let's talk about this. This blade steel, well, first let me tell you the price. This thing's coming in at 120 bucks, okay? Very, very reasonable in our world, almost budget in some people's minds. This sheep's foot style blade is the most functional freaking blade shape for this size of knife, hands down, okay? This beautiful stone wash finish on here is great. Look at that. This very generous opening hole actually allows you to get in there and not worry about whether or not you're actually gonna open the knife. Now, some of you'd say, I never worried about opening up my knife. Well, if you ever wore thick gloves, you might. You won't have that issue with this knife. I mean, this is just freaking sane. Now, that leads me into the action, guys. 120 bucks. This blade stock, I think, is coming in at 125 thousandths. It's a very small blade. This is about 3 inches plus or minus. And look at that. Very little encouragement needed. Just absolutely silly. Oh my gosh. Now, this is a liner lock that is very easily accessed. Look how much access you have to that liner. Just insane, right? Look at this pivot. Very, very just like simple, right? But it looks fantastic. It just matches this beautiful stone wash on. Oh wait, there's a cover plate right there because this is ambidextrous, at least for the pocket clip. This pocket clip is a milled titanium pocket clip. Look at that. So titanium scales, liners that have some milling on the inside of the non-locking side, a beautiful, just milled out titanium pocket clip, 14C28N, which yes, it's a budget steel, but for 125 bucks and a knife that is perfect. This knife is perfect. This action, I have yet to take this knife apart, guys. Sure, I added some oil to it just to see how good we can get it, right? But this was out of the box, damn near drop shut. You can ask Corey over there at the Practical Blade. I sent that dude a video. I'm like, check this shit out for 120 bucks. This is insane. Now let's talk about the ergonomics of a smaller knife. The blade width is, like I said, just about 3 inches. You have a choil area right here, which not only doubles as a sharpening choil because it comes right up to the plunge grind, maybe could have gone a little bit further because this sharpened area right here does start right where the plunge grind is. But in hand, check it out. All 4 fingers in the choke up position, and you're good to go. You can do that, you can do that with it. Everything about this kind of fits that Ben Banters-esque size requirement, and it has all the elements an enthusiast wants. Holy smokes! It does not get better than this for the price, for everything you're getting, for the innovation in the design. Simple yet elegant, and combining things like titanium liner lock, Tucson style. And in my opinion, that's innovative because it's a ballsy move to come out with a $120 knife that has 14C28N in it, because people have this thing in their mind. 14C is under 75 bucks. I'm not paying over 75 bucks. How many of you guys are saying that right frickin' now? All of you, or most of you, right? I said the same thing, but holy crap, I had to try it. And guys, this is something. Look how deep these frickin' screws go. These screws are so deep. So when you do want to work on it, you're not going to be stripping out your screws. They are all T8, so you don't have to change what tool you're using. Everything about this design was so well thought out. It is insane. Like, you couldn't fail this flip if you tried. The detent is turned so perfectly. Yes, I'm gushing over this because for 120 bucks, you can get a knife that is the perfect EDC, guys. This is 110% perfect. Kudos to Bridgeport Knife Co. They are getting not my most innovative ever, because the Manix II is the most innovative. These scales are the most innovative for 2022. The best value is going to the Hogue in Magnet Cut and carbon fiber for 215 bucks. This is getting the best overall release in 2022. This knife is beautiful. The design is very, very, very well thought out. The $120 price point actually isn't bad, considering half of us will spend $250 once a month on a freaking Wii knife because they release one every month. Yeah, so 120 bucks, not that bad, guys. And for the Wii, you're actually paying for a heat treat 59 to 60 for M390, which whatever, right? This is heat treated at 59 HRC. I talked to them. They said 59 HRC, which is very, very acceptable for 14C. It took a laser edge, guys. I sharpened this the other day. I used just a diamond stone just to kind of catch up real quick, and then I switched over to my ceramic stones from Spyderco. And it's I would call it close to a mirror polish, you know, maybe 75% of the way there. And this was tree-topping hairs off my arm. I had this sharpened in less than 10 minutes. It was just such a beautiful thing. Everything about this is awesome. Knife of the Year 2022. You guys, stay sharp, stay safe, have a great freaking rest of your day, and let's finish 2022 as brothers and sisters together, strong, safe, and full of family and too much damn food. Love you guys.